All right, Shalom. I want to start out by giving all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Shemah, Hawashai, Shemar, Kakodash, double honor to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, and Shalom to the Akim out there pushing word and sincerity and in truth. I just got this article on Blacklisted News. Major Western cities are becoming uninhabitable HellHoles, and it was published February 13th, 2019. The year of Karagma. America's showing more and more indications of CTD, which is, of course, a medical term going into circling the drain. And I just want to jump into this article because it's showing more and more signs, as it is written in 2nd Ezra, the 9th chapter. The fall of this kingdom is becoming more and more evident. But it says, almost everyone that goes out to visit one of our major cities on the West Coast has a similar reaction. Those that must live among the escalated decay are often numb to it, but most of those are just in town for a visit are absolutely shocked by all of the trash, human defecation, crime, and public drug use that they encounter. Once upon a time, our beautiful western cities were the envy of the rest of the world, but now they're serve as shining examples of America's accelerating decline. Right, and this is pure biblical prophecy. As a matter of fact, before I continue on it, I'm going to jump into what the scripture says. This is Jeremiah 51:7. Babylon has been a golden cup in the Lord's hand that made all the earth drunken. The nations have drunken of her wine, therefore the nations are mad. Right, and all the nations, they seen America as this palatial country, fixed and faceted upon basically beauty and grandeur. Especially around the the 1800s, the 1700s. Everybody basically marching in America. They always thought of this place as basically, the city of gold. Only to come to find out that they've been deceived, and America is very perverse. And that's why it speaks about the golden cup, because the cup is what seduces the masses of the people. Just like if you see, in most cases, people buy and purchase off of the label rather than what's in the bottle. In most cases, like wine, if you're dealing with wine, if somebody's not familiar with wine and the point system of the purchase, they look at the labeling and they'll say, okay, it's shiny, it has gold, it has glistening, text. It has gold ribbons or different color ribbons that's wrapped around this wine bottle. It has to be very immaculate. It has to be top notch. This has to be a great seller. Only to find out that when you drink the wine, it's basically horse piss. And that's America, man. America, is seducing to the eyes, and it looks like it's advertised as this beautiful place, and that's why it says the nations have drunken of the wine and they're mad because it has not came out what it cut out to be. So I'm gonna go back into this scripture, but I just wanted to hit that main point. But continuing on the article, it says the worst parts of our major western cities literally look like post-apocalyptic wastelands, and the hordes of zombified homeless people that live in those areas are too drugged out to care. The ironic thing is that these cities are not poor. In fact, San Francisco and Seattle are among the wealthiest cities of the entire nation. So if things are falling apart this dramatically now, how bad will things get with economic conditions really starting to deteriorate? Let's start our discussion by looking at the rat epidemic in Los Angeles or LA. Thanks to extremely poor public sanitation, rats are breeding like mad, and at this point they have even conquered LA City Hall. So I'm just going to read a little bit on this. It says officials at Los Angeles City Hall are considering ripping all of the building's carpets up as rats and fleas are said to be running riots in its hall. And that's filthy, man. And like I said, these are all signs of the decaying of a country. Just like you see that if you go into a household and you see mold on a house, mold on all throughout the walls, you see deterioration in the wood. You see all kind of rats and all kind of termites in the wood that's eating away at a building's structure, you know that building is soon to fall and is basically vacant. It has been having lack of maintenance and is basically about to drop. And it's the same thing with America, and that's on a spiritual aspect, and it's a physical aspect, because you have LA, and everybody knows LA is one of the most populous cities in the United States of America. In the city, like I said, in the city hall, they're talking about ripping up the buildings because it's a rat and flea epidemic that's coursing all throughout. And I'm just gonna jump to certain points, but it says people from all over the world are drawn to LA because of what they have seen on television, but it is truly a filthy, filthy place. The number of homeless have been rising about 20% a year. Public drug use is seemingly everywhere, and there are mountains of trash all over the place. Needless to say, rats thrive in such an environment, and the epic battle that one LA journalist is having with rats was recently featured in the LA Times. East side, west side, north and south, they're everywhere. If you're a rat, the California housing crisis has not hit you yet, and it never will. At our house, it sounded like the rats were having relay races in the ceilings, and they don't wear sneakers. Your eyes blink and your leg twitches as you drift off to sleep, knowing that if the plague comes back, you are living at ground zero. In our garden, they devoured entire heads of lettuce. They destroyed my squash just before it was ripe and ready to eat. They stole my tomatoes, cilantro, Anaheim chili peppers. Were they bottling their own salsa? Yeah, and of course, that's the humoric sarcasm going into basically how much they're just ransacking all throughout, the vegetation in these different areas. It's saying right here in this part of the article, the rat infestation in Salem, Oregon, and the homeless also is basically ransacking all throughout those different places. And like I said, it's public urination, public defecation all throughout these different places, man. America's done, man. What more proof, what more evidence do you need? These documents are coming out day by day of politicians being corrupt, the infrastructure being a grade F at a failing rate, the lack of substance, which of course is food and things of that nature in America. Lack of organic food, lack of actual nutritious food is actually showing itself in America, on top of more and more things, and that all is indications on the fall of this society. Just like when Rome fell, you had the water system, you had the pipes, lead poisonings in Rome, you had the stretching too thin of the military, you had the deterioration of the denarius and various other things. Same thing with Greece. All these countries, they showed plenty of signs before they actually toppled. And it's the same thing with America. So continuing on, it says, amid the trash, human despair, and anguish, one weeping woman prepared to leave the most recent place she knows as home without any real inkling of where she'll go. And matter of fact, I'm just going to jump down. It says, first, the obvious, the Denver City Council has voted unanimously to decriminalize a number of offenses, including defecating in public, also urinating in public, camping on public or private land without permission, panhandling, and lying across public rights of way, such as sideways. So this is another major situation that's going on, is public defecation and public homeless, which they don't have any area to actually use the bathroom, so they're using it on all throughout the streets and things of that nature. And matter of fact, I'm gonna read a little bit up. It says, yes, there have always been homeless and campless in this country, but in modern times, we have never faced anything on the scale that we are facing now. More than 500,000 Americans are homeless right now, and that number continues to grow. And as it grows, communities will increasingly be forced to make some tough decisions. I am quite eager to talk about San Fran, but before we get to the city by the bay, let's take note of something that just happened in Denver. If you are in a public defecation, you will be very happy to learn that Denver just made it legal. So, hey, this is wild, man. It's wild to actually see the conditions of the fall of this place, and the apostles and elders have been prophesying these things for many years, the fall of America. And you have everybody that has their, the masters of the people, which the word mass goes into to death. You have the masters of the people with their head in the sand, and they don't observe the communities around them. They don't look into these documents. They don't go into, articles. They don't look globally on the fall, or the status of countries. So they believe that everything is going peacefully and great. And that's why it tells you the prophecy in the Ezra's that victual shall be so good cheap that basically people will be in a state of passiveness. All right, so continuing on, says Democrat mayor, which I had just read the first part, but I'm going to jump to the second paragraph. Democrat Mayor Michael Hancock and city officials explained the new ordinances are designed to protect immigrants, legal and the other kind, from unintended consequences. These consequences were fines and longer jail terms, and has been customary in most places for violating the behavioral norms of civilized American society. Right. So just want to jump down a little bit into San Fran, because it's speaking about how all these different syringes are in circulation in San Fran. It says in San Francisco, they actually give out free syringes to drug addicts, and it is being reported that they handed out a total of 5.8 million free syringes in 2018. That is a lot of syringes. They also try to get the syringes back in order to prevent the spread of disease, but that hasn't been too successful. There's just one problem where more than one, despite spending an extra 1.8 million last year in an effort to retrieve needles, the San Fran Chronicle reports that the department handed out about 2 million more syringes than it got back, many of which are now washing around the streets of one of the richest cities in America. And what does that tell you, man? That tells you without a shadow of a doubt that America's done. This is one of the richest cities in America. All right, and it's famous for homosexuals in San Francisco, but with this homosexual epidemic itself comes a lot of money, because these homosexuals in America have a lot of dough, and they're heavily drug addicts, man. That shows you that this place is done, man. So it says, with so much public drug use going on, it should be no surprise that crime is completely and totally out of control. Here's more from John Stossel. Each day in San Francisco, an average of 85 cars are broken into. So, that's just the main point. Is going to go into a lot of the things that's going on all throughout America. These things are hitting the streets. They didn't even make mention of cities like Chicago. They didn't make mention of, places in New York, Atlanta. Here in Atlanta, they have basically a AIDS epidemic that's on the comparison of the worst AIDS in Africa. They said that document has been brought out that AIDS and HIV in Atlanta is worse than Africa. So this society is starting to become a third world country, man. The same America that everybody trusts in, just as ancient Egypt in the Bible, when everybody trusted in ancient Egypt, that society fell. All right. And the Egyptian kingdom, before it toppled, it was signs and wonders to show that place was going to fall. You had the 10 plagues that plagued Egypt, the fall of the cattle, the death of the firstborn, the locusts, the hell mingled with fire, so on and so forth. But I'm going to continue on this scripture. Babylon is suddenly fallen and destroyed. Howl for her. Take balm for her pain, if so be she may be healed. We would have healed Babylon, but she is not healed. Right, and the Lord has ways of resurging and rebuilding this society, but it's not for the Lord's intent to restructure and revamp America. He wants this place to fall, and he's hitting this place with surgical strikes through the spirit of these different, whether diseases, whether infrastructural damage, insects, rodents, which we just read. Same thing with ancient Egypt. America's is feeling the same hits, and it's these are just basic body shots. The big KOs hasn't even came in yet, man. The Lord is still hitting California with wildfires. It's still natural disasters, and all these different things is going on. And this is just the beginning of plagues. So it says, we would have healed Babylon, but she is not healed. Forsake her, and let us go everyone into his own country, for a judgment reacheth unto heaven, and is lifted up even to the skies. Right. And it speaks in Revelations 18 how the sins of America has reached the heavens. So since the society's wickedness has reached the heaven, it's going to fall, man, just like during the time of the Tower of Babel. When Babel was under a heavy construct from the powers that be at the time, they built that tower to the highest point possible until the Most High crashed the tower, confused the people, and scattered them. All right. And Babylon, the virgin daughter of Babylon, is structuring that same ideology and the same principles today. It's all spiritual now. All right. You have the One World Tower that's in New York City, if I'm not mistaken. It's 66.6 feet high. If I'm not mistaken, it has some type of symbolic Masonic satanic number to show the wickedness of Esau, Edom. But Esau, he's going to continue to deal with his witchcraft, and like the scripture says, let your stargazer save you. Let the gods that you worship save you, because all these different gods and the sorcery that Esau goes to for his power are fleeing him. His power is being stripped away from his hand, and I want to get that in Isaiah, the 14th chapter. I'm gonna start at verse 11. Thy pomp is brought down to the grave, and the noise of thy vows. The worm is spread under thee, and the worms cover thee. Right, and the worm represents deterioration of infrastructure. All right, and it's been shown when you deal with the federal budget, everything is being broken down as far as America's federal structuring goes, man. The military is showing that America's federal military is a bunch of homosexuals and addicts. The veterans is a high level of suicide rate. All right, in the medical industry, is being shown that people are dying left and right from medical drugs. The agricultural, you see that agriculture is at an all-time low. The pushing out of organic foods is diminishing. And it's all kind of war, that's going on. It's already been projected as a scarcity of substance, so on and so forth. Technology has already been brought out that the 5G technology, which is soon to come, is going to destroy the minds of the people, which even is going on now through the technology that we're using to this day. So everything that America is pushing out to develop and to increase is actually breaking it down. And this all goes back to the Bible. So, which Lord, when I do a addition on that, going into the federal, how America is basically falling federally on all different degrees and categories through the spirit of Yahweh Shema Shah. So, I'm just going to leave it off with that. Just want to go into that article just to, further add to, the fall of the society. So I want to end it by giving all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh Shema Shah by Shemar Kakodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone.